Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and salam sejahtera. Today, our group consists of 4 people: Muhammad Aizat Syamil bin Zulkifli, Muhammad Al-Afif bin Ahmad, Muhammad Amirul Fikri bin Muhammad Hisham, and Muhammad Nazrin bin Rahid. We are from Faculty of Mechanical Engineering and Manufacturing, University Technical Malaysia, Melaka. We would like to present a special title, which is Radiator Servicing. Hopefully, our presentation can provide knowledge to all of you.
Hi and Assalamualaikum. My name is Muhammad Al-Afif bin Ahmad and I'm from Group 4. I'm gonna talk about introduction for our topic, that is radiator servicing. A is background. The radiator works by passing your coolant through thin metal fins which allow the heat to flow to the air outside your car much more easily. Sometimes there is a fan that blows air across the radiator in order to carry the hot air out of your car. Radiator comes in many different shapes, sizes and designs, but the primary function remains the same. 4B is problem statement. First is overheating, second is leaking coolant, third is sludge built up in the radiator, fourth is low coolant levels. C is objective. Although most people have heard of a radiator, they may not be aware of its purpose or importance. In the simplest terms, the radiator is the central component of a vehicle's cooling system. Its primary function is to monitor and regulate a vehicle engine's temperature and prevent it from overheating. D is scope. First is allow the engine to cool down. Second is jack up the vehicle. Third is drain the coolant. Fourth is run the flush solution through the radiator. 5. Drain. 6. Run water through radiator. 7. Lower the vehicle. 8. Refill the radiator with antifreeze or coolant. 9. Start the engine and monitor cooling system operation. E is significant of the study. First is identify radiator problems that usually happen. Second is know how to service the radiator and able to do it. Third is know how radiator working for vehicle. Fourth is identify parts of radiator and list of equipment. And lastly, identify the experiment methods.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Muhammad Aizat Syamil bin Zulkifli, and the topic I will be present is literature review and result discussion. Okay, first, radiator system. Radiator is formed of heat exchanger. Its purpose is to transfer heat from the hot coolant flowing through it to the air blown by the fan. Aluminum radiators are used in the majority of modern automobiles. Brazing thin metal fin to flattened aluminum tube creates this radiator. Okay, for working principle, the fluid is pumped into the engine block and then circulated through the channel in the engine around the cylinder. It's then returned through the cylinder head of the engine, where the fluid leaves the engine to the where thermostat is located. When the thermostat is closed, the fluid is returned to the pump through the piping around the thermostat. When the valve is open, the fluid first flows through the radiator before returning to the pump via the pipe in the engine block and cylinder head. The cooler absorbs heat along the way before returning to the radiator to be cooled. The cooled coolant is then returned to the circuit and the cycle repeats to keep the engine at the correct temperature. And then the main part of the radiator. First we have core, second pressure cap, third outlet and inlet tank, and then cooler. Okay.
Hi, I am Muhammad Amirul Fikri bin Muhammad Hisham. Today, I want to tell you what is the methodology of the first one is the introduction. Car engine cooling system failure rank among the top 3 causes of roadside breakdown. With radiator fail, Accounting for a large percentage of this, a fully functional and efficient cooling system circulates coolant to reduce heat around your engine and is essential in preventing overheating. This is the flowchart of servicing radiator. First one, we need to park the vehicle at suitable area. Next, we need to jack and stand the vehicle. After that, we drain the liquid in the radiator. Next, we remove the upper hose and the lower hose on the radiator. After that, we remove the screw binding the radiator. After we move the screw, we send the radiator to radiator service store. After that, we reinstall the radiator to the vehicle and the hose. Next, we need to open the water pipe and insert into the radiator. After that, we start the engine and we leave the engine in idle. After that, we turn off the engine and reinstall the radiator bottom disposal plug. Next, we fill the coolant into the radiator. After that, we start the engine without closing the radiator cover. And lastly, we check the radiator. If the water was boiling, we need to send the radiator to the radiator service store back. If the water not boiling, we need to test the vehicle. This is the Gantt chart. In minute 5, we park, jack and stand the car. In minute 10, we drain the liquid. In minute 15, we remove the hose. And in minute 20, we remove the radiator, and after that, we send the radiator to the radiator store. In minute 30, we reinstall the part and insert the water pipe in minute 35. We also start engine flushing and keep the engine idle. In minute 50, we turn off the engine and fill the coolant in minute 55. After that, we start the engine and check the radiator system in minute 60 to minute 70. The list of equipment. First one is lift jack or jack. The second one is jack stand. The third one is tools. The fourth, pressure test for checking. The fifth, drain. The sixth, gasket marker. And the lastly is water pipe. Method of experiment. First one, we need to define the problem and determine the objective. After that, determine response and factor. Next, we design the experiment. After that, we conduct experiment and collect the data. After we collect the data, we analyze the data and interrupt the result. Next, we verify predict result. Lastly, additional experiment as required. Let me show you how the process of servicing radiator.
Shit, here we go, what's up?
That's all for me. Thank you.
For the result and discussion, for the test 1, we test 5 psi. The pressure do not decrease and the radiator is in the good condition. For the second test, for 10 psi, the pressure still do not decrease and the radiator is in the good condition. For the third test, 15 psi, the pressure do not decrease and the radiator is in the good condition. And then, if the car radiator has a leakage problem after doing the pressure test, we should detect the leakage area and immediately patch the radiator leakage area with the correct material. But if this leak recur, it is better to replace with the new radiator. Okay, thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Nazrin and I will continue about analysis of the result. Effluent coolant mass flow, a graph plotted showing the variance of the effectiveness and cooling capacity by the variance of coolant flow rate. Coolant flow rate has been plotted on x-axis and the effectiveness and cooling capacity has been plotted at the primary and secondary y-axis. The temperature of inlet coolant has been maintained at 80 Celsius. By the graph plotted, is it observed that effectiveness and the cooling capacity of the radiator has direct relation with the coolant flow rate. With an increase of the value of inlet cooling flow rate, there is corresponding increase in the value of the effectiveness and cooling capacity. The second one is influence of coolant inlet temperature. In the following graph, the variance in the cooling capacity and outlet temperature of hot coolant is plotted against the inlet temperature of hot coolant. On the x-axis, inlet temperature of hot coolant is plotted. The cooling capacity and the outlet temperature are plotted on the primary and secondary y-axis. The first graph is plotted when the fan is rotating at speed 6000 rpm and the second graph is plotted by considering it to be stationary. After observing the first graph, it is found that with the increase in the inlet temperature as the coolant of the cooling, the capacity of the radiator increase. Also, with the increase in the inlet temperature of coolant, the temperature range of operation increase rapidly, and higher range of the temperature operation, the inlet of the inlet and the outlet temperature coolant increase rapidly. This happens because of the heat transfer between the ambient and radiator surface take place by two phenomena. One is conduction and the other is convection. In both these processes, the transfer heat is directly proportional to temperature difference. Higher the temperature difference between the two medium, higher will be the heat transfer.
For the conclusion, based on the observation, result and finding obtained in this project, what we have found are engine cooling system was in good condition. This is because there are no leaks and malfunction of each component on the vehicle. After servicing, the water in radiator is changed to a new coolant. This is to prevent the component in radiator from rusting. It is very important for us to take care of our engine cooling system so that there is no extreme damage to our engine due to excessive temperature. That's all from us. Thank you for enjoying the video.